Hello again. A couple of minutes later, I'm going to drip feed these so they're not going to kind of go bumper to bumper. I am back with a few more pieces of, a few more examples of alterations and repairs to show you that I've recently had dropped off from IIII in Nottingham. Like I said on the previous video, sometimes, well, so often there are pieces in your wardrobe that you just don't think can be fixed or you don't think can be repaired, and you just live with something. You live with this piece of clothing that kind of just exists in a certain way, and it's not until I kind of come in and look at it and kind of go, we can do something about that, we can repair that, we can fix that, we can make that look better, that my clients realise the kind of possibility of it. And it's part of the wardrobe edit that I really enjoy. I say to clients when I'm with them, it's about breathing new life into kind of existing clothes that they've got in their wardrobe, and that might just be re-inspiring new outfits, or it might just be making something look and feel so much better than it already does. And that's the case with a couple of the pieces that I've got here. Knitwear, you can't do as much to knitwear as you can do with maybe a pair of jeans or a piece of tailoring, because you haven't got the seam work. You can't just kind of take an arm off and shorten an arm because it's a piece of fashioned knitwear. So the kind of possibility with knitwear is often less, but you can still do some really innovative alterations to it that you potentially can't do with something like a jacket. Now, this sweater I bought with my client quite a few years ago now. It might be 4 years ago. It is just such a useful sweater, just a classic. I say a classic, just a classic. It's not just a classic, but it is a navy cashmere sweater, but with just some really pretty detail that just makes something as easy as this to kind of throw on with whatever tailored trouser, tailored jean, skirt, whatever, just immediately kind of dresses everything up because the details are just so pretty on it. It's got the most beautiful frilled neckline, which just looks amazing on at this time of year. And then that detail as well is echoed in the cuff. Now, the cuff, it's a batwing sweater, as you can see, and then it's got this really deep rib here through the arm and the wrist, and then these really beautiful metal buttons. It's actually a working cuff, you can undo it. And over time, like I've mentioned earlier, knitwear will relax. It kind of, the first time you put it on, it might feel really slim and neat and tight on the arm, but through multiple wears, that will just give and relax, and that either makes it feel more comfortable or actually it kind of makes it feel less smart because it might have lost its shape a little bit. Now with jeans, and I've got some denim here to show you, that also happens, and you can just put your jeans in the wash and it will kind of shrink it in and bring it back together. And you can do that with knitwear, but with something like this, which is just such a beautiful, very special piece of cashmere, you don't really want to be chucking it into the machine in an attempt to kind of get its shape back, because you'll just ruin it. Now, we'd found that over time, the rib of this cuff had become bigger. It was, when we first bought it, it was really tight, and it was great because it just sat on the arm in the right place. It gripped it like that, and it didn't slip down the arm. It sat where it should do. But then when I was at my client's a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, we pulled this out to kind of build some new outfits with it. And when it was on, I noticed that this rib had relaxed, and in turn it was dropping down the arm, and then it was kind of covering the hand almost because it's quite a long sleeve. And my client had just been living with it. She'd just been doing what I've been doing today and rolling it up, but as the day would go on, she'd constantly be kind of fussing with it, to the point that she was saying it was kind of annoying her and she just wasn't wearing it. And it's a lot to do with the fact that it's relaxed, but it's also because it's got so much weight with these extra buttons on it that it was doing that. Now, if this was a piece of tailoring, I'd say, well, we're just going to shorten the sleeve, we'll just take the cuff off and we'll just kind of chop a little bit of the arm off and we'll stick it back on, or we'll take the arm off altogether and we'll take it off from the shoulder and we'll just stick it back on. But because this is one big piece of knitwear, you can't do that. You can't just cut through knitwear and sew it back together again because it will just all fall apart. So we're more limited with what we can do with it. And this is where IIII just kind of comes into his own kind of like genius, because I had an idea about what we could do with this, but then when I took it into IIII and he had a look at it, he was just like, we're going to do it like this and we'll do it another way. So this is such a simple alteration, but it's just revived this piece of knitwear, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching this will probably think, oh my goodness, I've got so many pieces of knitwear that I could do this to, it would be really useful. So his suggestion was, as you can see, I say just, I've got to stop saying just because it is a big deal, he's very clever, putting a piece of elastic through the underarm seam of the sweater. I'm playing with the tension, so it's really gathered in the middle and then it's less gathered at either end, just to kind of create this kind of gradual kind of gathering through the sleeve. So a piece of elastic was, the tension was played with it and it was pinned through this, and then the elastic was sewn in place. And what it's done, it's created this kind of permanent gather on the underarm here. When the sweater's on, pretty much like what I've got on here, it's got this kind of deep gather into the elbow, and then that kind of gathering just kind of subtly disappears into the cuff and the same up into the underarm as well. So it just holds it in place. You put it on, it feels like it's just being worn in a particular way. It doesn't look like it's been tinkered with, but it just means that you can put this on and you can step out the door and you can just live with it all day, and you're not going to be constantly kind of fussing with it. And it's the kind of piece that if you were, I don't know, presenting or working in front of a team and you were just getting annoyed because you're constantly having to do this, you just wouldn't put it on. But this has just meant now that it can be lived in for the whole day, and it's just going to look exactly as it should do and sit in exactly the right place. So a really kind of subtle, easy piece of alterations, but it's just going to make the world of difference, and this is going to get so much more wear out of it. I will briefly talk to you about these. This is one of the only things that I've got in the wardrobe, in the pile at the moment, that is new. Everything else is existing pieces that are in the wardrobes already. Jeans are an interesting one at the moment, and I'm shopping more for jeans this last season than I have done in a very, very long time with my clients for their work wardrobe. And it's basically because the office environment has gone more casual. It has done for everybody. And a lot of clients are coming to me saying, I can wear jeans, I can get away with jeans in the office, and I didn't used to be able to do that. But you know, if you're in quite a senior role, putting on a pair of jeans is great if a lot of your team are wearing jeans. It kind of like balances you out and it kind of makes you all part of the same team, but in the same breath you don't want to be wearing something really, really casual, because if you're in a more senior role you still need to kind of be presenting yourself in that way, but you've just got to be relatable to everybody else. Now ignore the colour of these are not what I would suggest you wear in the office, but I'm kind of showing you them because I've bought this particular pair of jeans so many times with clients over the last couple of months because they just look great on. Now, a lot of clients over the last few years have just been living in skinny jeans, but living in skinny jeans outside of the office as a very kind of either casual piece of denim, a very comfortable casual piece of denim, or a sexy pair of jeans, like something really great to kind of wear a skinny pair of jeans with a beautiful top on a night out at the weekend. But a skinny jean does not work in the office. It is too casual or it is too sexy, but it's predominantly what so many clients have got in their wardrobe. Now, you can't let out a pair of skinny jeans. You can't go, okay, we need to kind of relax them ever so slightly. So that's why I found myself buying more denim with clients this season, because this kind of tailored pair of jeans is missing for a lot of clients in their wardrobe. Now this is from Frame. It's called the High Straight, odd name. High rise straight fit. High rise jean that is fitted through the hip to the mid thigh and then relaxes to a slim straight leg and hits just above the ankle. That is exactly what it does, and it looks perfect on. It's basically a really beautiful, tailored, comfortable pair of jeans that, with its high rise and its very kind of like straight tailored leg, feels totally smart enough to wear into the office. Now, it's available in this really light wash, which looks great. It's also in an indigo, which I bought, and it's also in a black, which I bought a lot of. And it's the black that just looks so great in the office. Now the only thing with this particular pair of jeans, and they don't say it on the label, is they weren't hemmed like they are now, because I've had this done. They were a straight, kind of just like a razor cut that was frayed at the bottom. Now, as is always the case with denim, the elusive perfect pair of jeans just does not exist, and I will never kind of pretend to a client that I can ever find that for them, because it's just a waste of time trying to do it. You know, the right wash, the right colour, the right fit, the right weight, the right distressing, the right detail. Trying to get all of that is just impossible, and it's just not worth the faff of going through. So I will often say to clients, let's kind of find the closest thing and then see what the possibility is in regard to dyeing to get the perfect colour, or tailoring to get the perfect fit, or altering, in this case, to get the perfect look. And with that kind of in mind, you can pretty much always find a great pair of jeans. But I would just recommend, do not try and find it all in one look, because you never will. And if you do, amazing, good for you. But don't think that that standard is ever going to be achievable again, because it's probably not. So with this one, for example, like I said, the fit was so great, it was super comfortable and it looked really smart for work, but it was just this edge that was not quite right. Now, in this particular case, the length was actually absolutely perfect for my client. So we didn't want to take it up too much, because you basically, when you do hem something like this, you could lose up to an inch. And me being the perfectionist that I am in regard to tailoring, I don't want to take it up an inch, because suddenly the length isn't right, because it's an inch higher than it should be. That might sound to some of you like ridiculous, an inch isn't that much, but trust me, it really does make all the difference. So with this, we basically just rolled a fraction of the raw seam under, and then put a tape in place, which you can see here, to secure it. And then by putting the tape in place, we kind of created a little bit of weight, which is what you're kind of used to seeing around the hem of a trouser. And then Iraj used a gold thread to echo the old gold thread that exists through this pair of jeans to create a kind of genuine, authentic looking hem on this pair of jeans without losing any of the length. When I say any of the length, it's like a couple of millimetres that we've lost, which is totally fine, to get them to look perfect. So they're back, and I'm quite proud of the fact that with all the tailoring that I've got here, this is the only new piece of product that I've got. Everything else has just been reworked from the wardrobe. Okay. Jackets. I'm going to show you a couple of these. Leather jackets. This one I'd seen a couple of times in my client's wardrobe. And it wasn't until recently that I was back with her that we pulled it out again and said, right, we're going to do something with this. We can kind of make this into an outfit. And it was at that point when we put it on that we realised actually the fit looked really dated. Now, a leather jacket is a real investment, and it's worth waiting to find the right one. It might be on my kind of shopping list with a client, but I'm not just going to get any leather jacket for the sake of it when I'm out with somebody, and I might just say to them, it's on the list. If we have luck and we find one that's perfect, great. You know, be prepared just to kind of spend a little bit more money on it. But I'm not just going to give you any old leather jacket, and it can take time to kind of find the right one. I don't think you need any more than one leather jacket in your wardrobe. It's not something that you're going to be kind of throwing on a daily basis, and you need loads of versions of it. But just getting one great leather jacket is such a cool, useful piece to have in your wardrobe. Now, in this instance, this had the potential to be that one leather jacket. I love a brown leather jacket. A black leather jacket on some people can just feel really harsh. It can feel really heavy and really dense, and it can feel quite contradictory to kind of a lot of other pieces in your wardrobe. But a brown is just a softer, and a brown is just such a easy colour to kind of mix with other colours. Like black is very heavy, and that's great if you wear a lot of kind of greys like I'm doing today, but if you don't wear a lot of kind of greys and blacks, it's difficult because it's such a kind of contrast. It's so heavy against other colours, whereas this looks great. We were styling this in the wardrobe with some really beautiful kind of dove greys, elephant greys, which just kind of sat really beautifully with it, and then pink as well. Pink and brown just looks so beautiful, so really beautiful, dusty, kind of raspberries and pinks for this time of year, and it looked really great, but the fit wasn't right, and it didn't look that fresh because it's quite old. So I've got great dry cleaners in Nottingham, and I've often taken leathers to them from my clients when I've done the wardrobe edit. I had one recently with a client, and the neckline of the leather was covered in makeup, which often does happen. And it almost felt like it had lifted the colour of the leather out and it had replaced it with this kind of light kind of makeup stain. And as a consequence, because that's what you see, it was framing the face, the jacket just looked messy and the client just wasn't wearing it. So when I took it into the dry cleaners, I actually went to their, it's not really a warehouse, their actual kind of like depot, their place where they do all the dry cleaning. I went to speak to them personally about it. Now they're so good because before they kind of took it and did any work to it, they needed details like what makeup is it oil based or is it water based, what product is it, how is it used, all these like random questions that I wouldn't know to ask. But with that information, they took the leather jacket off me for 2 weeks and it came back looking like new. So I totally trust them. And it's not an expensive kind of garment to get altered. Some people think that dry cleaning a leather is going to cost a fortune, but it doesn't. Now, this one had been hung up for a while and it had like watermarks on. It had a few kind of stains on the sleeve and the underarm. I don't know what it'd been sitting against, but it just didn't look that great. But I mean, I'm sure you can see, it just looks like new. The colour is so beautiful now. It's really kind of like polished up. It could be a new leather jacket, but I'm kind of tempted to say this could be over 15 years old. I'm not sure, I don't know if it is, but it's not a new purchase, but it looks it now. Now, so often with items that are kind of 10 plus years old, details and silhouettes feel dated. And this is exactly what this looked like. You put it on and it just, the design of it just felt very dated and it didn't complement so much of the other pieces of clothing in the wardrobe. So we had to look at kind of ways that we could make this feel more current through alterations. Now, the actual fit of it through the body was great. The shoulder fitted really well, but it was actually the sleeve which was quite wide and too long that made it look old, I suppose. So what we did was we took the sleeve off, we shortened the sleeve, keeping this detail here, which is this really lovely kind of very deep zip through the cuff, and brought it up. With a leather jacket, instinctively, when you try one on, it's often with tailoring, you will zip it up. And that is a way for a lot of people to kind of confidently think to themselves that something fits. But the reality of it is with a leather jacket, you're very rarely going to be zipping it all the way to the top because this solid, expansive leather just looks not very flattering on. And that kind of expansive leather through here and then through this very kind of long sleeve, it was just too much. So we've actually shortened it quite considerably so that it sits quite high. It kind of almost sits like above the wrist. I wouldn't say it's like a bracelet length, but it's just showing off a more, like just this kind of, the very kind of like elegant part of your arm, the wrist here. And so it just kind of feels softer. It feels more feminine when it's on because you've got that bit of arm showing. So we brought that up, which made all the difference. And then we also thought about the inside of the cuff as well and the amount of leather that's got in it, because it also just to kind of make something feel a little bit more kind of lived in and, you know, styled by you, I suppose, really, that kind of detail, is that if you wanted to turn it up, we didn't want it just to kind of go straight into the lining fabric, which would look really messy. So we put a deeper amount of leather through the inside of the cuff there, just so that when it's turned up and out, you're just seeing the leather and you're not seeing the lining fabric. So alterations and kind of tweaks just to kind of make it feel more styled and more current is what we've done, along with a really great clean. And now suddenly you've got a really classic, very understated leather jacket, which is going to be so useful, which has just now suddenly got a completely new lease of life and can be kind of styled out in so many different ways. And lastly, I haven't timed this very well, a suit jacket. My client had 2 full suits in her wardrobe. These are both from Reese. It was exactly the same, one in navy and one in black. I often say that you see pieces like this on the hanger or on the website of a brand, and on paper is what I would describe it. It does the job. You kind of think, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. This is a suit that I'm looking for. And on paper, it's great. And then you get it home and you put it on and you're like, oh, yeah, on paper it's great, but it's not really my personality. And then that's where the clang is, and that's why it's one of those pieces that if you've got it in your wardrobe, you put it on in the morning, and for whatever occasion you're going into work, it just doesn't really feel like you. It feels like it's somebody else's suit that you're going to work with. And this is very much what this felt like when my client brought it on. I see a lot of these kind of suits in clients' wardrobes. You know, I'm working with kind of senior people, you know, in senior roles, board level, and these are the kind of suits that just make them feel like they're the graduate. I often joke, but it is kind of like a graduation suit. It's like the first suit that you buy when you've graduated and you go into a graduate role. You kind of think to yourself, I need to buy a suit, and for a guy it might be a black suit, and for a female client it might be like a navy blue pencil skirt, and you put it on as a graduate, and then you actually get into the office and then you kind of look around and think, no one actually wears suits like this, and you just feel like the graduate when you've got them. So with this, we just needed to tinker it so it just felt more like her. Now the actual jacket itself is beautiful. It had like a really elegant, it's a longer length than the jacket, which on the right person just looks so beautiful on. The sleeve was a lot longer as well, and it wasn't as fitted as much as it is now. So when it was on, the kind of longer length, the longer sleeve, and the kind of and it wasn't as fitted, it felt really boxy on. So rather than being elegant, it felt really heavy. And so we just basically needed to really kind of play with the silhouette and the shape just to make it feel a little bit more up to date and something that mirrored so much more that was already in the wardrobe. So little things that we did, we chipped the shoulder. So we brought the shoulder in, so narrowed this distance here, and that created like a softer line across the shoulder. Before it was quite broad. And that kind of really played on that boxy silhouette. So we chipped that. Like with the leather jacket, we brought the sleeve up. It's a working cuff. And so we brought that up just to kind of soften it, you know, that kind of longer length, just that little bit more skin on the wrist makes all the difference. And then I scooped out a lot of fabric through the back. I basically wanted to create, when it was open, not just when it was closed, because a lot of the time you won't wear these kind of tailoring jackets closed. So when it was open, I still wanted to make sure we had that window between the waistline and the elbow, which really kind of just shows off that kind of silhouette, that more kind of feminine silhouette through that piece of kind of masculine tailoring really, and just make it feel more tailored. So I scooped out from the side seams and from the centre back. So when it's on, that line, that silhouette, that kind of beautiful shape carried not just on the waist, but then it hugged the arc of the back and it went all the way around. So 1, 2, 3 little kind of tweaks to it, all quite standard, but now when this goes back into the wardrobe, it's just going to feel a lot cooler. It's going to feel a lot more kind of styled and a lot more special as well, rather than just a kind of basic navy suit, which is what it did before I got my hands on it. I think that's it. See you soon.